Hello, everyone, and welcome to LeadStar's annual AEP sales training. I'm your host, Megan Guido, Director of Growth Marketing here at AmeriLife. In this session, we'll be walking through all the tips, tricks, and strategies you need to be successful with LeadStar this AEP. Before we jump in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. All audience audio and video settings are disabled, and if you have questions along the way, please submit them using the Q&A feature in Teams. We'll make sure to cover as many as possible at the end. I'm joined today by a couple of industry leaders who I'm sure many of you are familiar with already. We have Brandon Clay, the CEO of Enroll Here. Now partnered with LeadStar, Enroll Here is a company dedicated to driving innovation in the Medicare and marketing and lead generation space. As a strategist and coach, he is focused on empowering agents to find their authentic sales voice and excel in their profession. Brandon is committed to powering the next wave of agent success utilizing LeadStar powered by Enroll Here. Next, we have Bobby Baish, also known as Medicare Bob, the Senior Vice President of Affiliate Partnerships for AmeriLife and the founder of Senior Healthcare Direct. With deep insights and a passion for helping others, he built an agency that has served tens of thousands of clients, which he then sold to AmeriLife and now helps our distribution with the sales process and tips they need to be successful. And lastly, we have Brian Lubin. Brian brings a unique blend of business and operational expertise to insurance and healthcare distribution. Starting his journey with LeadStar, he closed over 200 sales in a single AEP. Now Brian leverages his expertise in building high-performing agencies to teach others how to succeed with the same sales strategies he implemented himself. With that being said, let's pass it off to Brandon to give some AEP empowerment to our agents, and then we'll kick it over to Bobby and Brian for the much-anticipated sales training.
No, awesome, Megan. And number one, excited to be here. This is my favorite time of year. I'm not a big football guy, but I love fall football. My wife's birthday was in September. And I actually started recounting. And while I may not look like it, this is my 29th AEP. And each one comes with its own opportunity, its own challenges. But this one I'm really excited about because we're bringing something new to agents, LeadStar powered by Enroll Here. And in this iteration, I think it's the tool that each one of you needs to succeed. I've been on a series of road shows. I know a lot of you have been going to carrier kickoffs and other events, and I'm a bit of a broken record. I always talk about mindset, skill set, and tool set. The fact that you're even here means your mindset is ready to learn, to be developed, to try something new. The tool set is obviously now the platform, LeadStar powered by Enroll Here. But what Bob and Brian are about to do is give you the one thing that I think is going to be the most needful as you're looking to evolve your business, which is the skill set. Because for all the features in the world and all the things I could tell you that I'm excited about relative to what we do on this platform or what we can do, it's the skill set, learning the trade of whether it be preset appointments or working virtually over the phones. So with that, my excitement obviously is to let you guys hear and see from two of the best in the business, Bobby, Medicare Bob, and Brian Lubin. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Thank you, Brandon. And thank you, Brian, for joining us today. I think this is our second or third year talking about the LeadStar platform. And every year, LeadStar just keeps improving. And Brandon and Enroll Here, you guys are a big part of that. You guys have helped improve lead quality and help reduce our lead cost. So thank you and your team for that. I believe Megan told me today that for annual enrollment and correct me if I'm incorrect, Megan, but I think inbound calls are $25 and live transfers are $30 roughly going into annual enrollment. Perfect. And so, again, just to reiterate, Brian's been one of my good friends for the last few years. I got him into the business 3 years ago, and his first annual enrollment and an open enrollment, he just sold insurance and only leveraged the LeadStar platform to write his first 200 apps. So this sales process that we're going to go over today, it has been perfected. I got to give David Manaya and my agency, Senior Healthcare Direct, that I founded a lot of credit. We perfected this process. So as you go over this sales process, I encourage you, if you've had experience, we're going to focus on selling over the phone. You might tweak it a little bit to make it your own, but I promise you can literally just read it verbatim and it will work. Brian tried to make it his own at times, and then he would always come back to just doing the proven concept. But Brian, again, thank you for joining, and it's real blessing to have you on here because again, you've done what these agents are about to go and encounter on 46 days of just excitement.
Grueling. Yes, lots of excitement, lots of grueling and grinding.
But again, to me, I'm a big fan. I've never been the most talented person, but I've always said no one's going to outwork me. And so for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you agents, 46 days, you've got a platform. I'm going to go over a quick budget analysis with you on the formula on the budget side for success. And then Brian and I will jump into this proven sales process. So again, don't get outworked this AEP. If you're getting into the business, this is your first, second, or third AEP. There could not be more opportunity with all of these changes happening in the marketplace between the carriers. So really excited for AmeriLife, really excited for you. And let's just start with how does the back end and how does the finance part work and how much should you invest into this AEP on the LeadStar platform? So again, if you're a single agent selling out of your house like Brian was, if you follow this formula, you can turn an $11,500 investment.
Well, we talk about we need to have a plan for your spend going in. So you need to have expectations set. And part of what we're going to do now is set some of those expectation and guardrails about what to expect, what to look for, and any of the investments that you'd be making into yourself.
And if you've watched some of these podcasts before or followed Brian and I, we talk about cost per acquisition. So during annual enrollment, you should very easily have a $100 or better cost per acquisition. That is your lead spend divided by your sales. And for Medicare Advantage plans, we're going to use just the street commission of $346 for cash flow.
For 2026.
For 2026 apps. Yep. And then we use a lifetime value of $1,000 for an MA, which means it's going to stay 3 years, which as an individual agent, or if you're managing an agency, you should be able to keep the bulk of your business on the books for that long. So if you invest $11,500 for the 46 days and you spend $250 a day on the inbound calls, that gets you 10 leads a day. You should easily average, even if this is your first annual enrollment, a 20% conversion rate on LeadStar.
Right, and you need to just be realistic, setting your expectation. But we're telling you, you should be able to convert at those rates. You may not the first few days if you've never sold over the phone before, but don't be discouraged as you hear some of these numbers.
Yep, make the commitment to a marketing plan and stick to it. So for someone that's starting out, if you just buy 10 leads a day, 2 sales, 20% conversion rate, over the 46 days of annual enrollment, you're going to get 115 sales. Okay, so that means come January on the street commission, you should make about $40,000 in cash. So right then and there, that's why this platform, especially during annual enrollment, is a huge opportunity because you're just putting up roughly $12,000 to make $40,000 in profit in cash. You just got to float yourself through with that $12,000 on the lead side. But that's not why we do this business. We do this business for residual income. We do this business to help people, and we do this business to build our own wealth. Well, yes, you did generate about $40,000 of cash off those 115 sales, but at an LTV of $1,000, you'll most likely make, if you do no cross-selling on HIP or life or anything like that, just on the Medicare Advantage commissions for helping them, you're going to turn that $12,000 investment on these leads in LeadStar to over $115,000 of lifetime value. And that's why we're in this business.
That's right.
So now, again, commit to the marketing plan. Your budget could be $5,000. Divide that by 100 and go for 50 sales. Your budget, if you have 4 agents with you, could be $40,000 on this platform. Again, but you should be able to target an average at least of 20% conversion on this platform, $100 CPA, and those numbers, whether you shrink them or scale them, will stay true, and you have a huge opportunity to make a lot of money. So selling over the phone and taking inbound calls is very different than what a lot of agents are used to. In my experience, now getting to manage some of the best partners in distribution, I get to meet with brokers and agents all year, all the time. And we have some really talented agents that still sell belly to belly, which is fantastic. And what I've noticed with them is agents typically spend their marketing efforts on getting in front of a customer. And then once we're in front of a potential customer, we're enrolling people, if we're being honest, when it comes to Medicare Advantage. Now, when you're doing an inbound lead, somebody else, LeadStar, is doing the work for you on getting the customer in front of you. So now your job's over the phone is you really have to have a sales process and guide that person to exactly where you want to go, which is solving their needs, which is helping them, and also getting them the right policy for you and helping yourself and your sales numbers. So let's start, Brian.
You want to pull up the script here real quick, and then I'll give a little bit of a pitch. So for me, when I first started, I got licensed, and LeadStar was just launching, and it was an opportunity for me to be able to sell over the phone without needing, big call center infrastructure. It just took down a lot of the barriers. The barrier to entry was really reduced. And to Bobby's point, I had a sales process leveraged from, everything I knew from Bob and Dave Manaya. And I took that and kind of ran with the files that you're going to look at here right now. The reality is, as I started training, I was like, I don't like this. I don't understand this. I'm not going to say that. And every time I would end up not getting a sale, losing a sale, I'd go back and listen to my recording. And I would realize that, well, there was a lot of psychology that went into building the script, and I didn't have a tie back, or the sales process didn't have a tie back in for when I got hit with a rebuttal. I didn't have anything to say. And so as we're going to go through this document, we're going to talk through why we do certain things in certain places along the way. This is a carrier-approved sales process that's been approved by the carrier. So keep that in mind as we're navigating through this. And anywhere that's highlighted, bolded, you really need to make sure that you follow those from a compliance standpoint, especially going into this next AEP. Compliance is going to be at the forefront of every conversation that we have going on.
Yeah, just right before we jump into this sales process, why don't we just touch base on what our carrier partners are really looking from distribution when it comes to compliance. I think compliance is to supplement and help improve quality.
Yep.
And what we're seeing right now from all of our carrier partners, if you guys are following the industry, star ratings have had a big impact on how much money the carriers are not receiving that they're used to. So you're seeing the carriers behave certain ways, but their main target is quality, and compliance is a way to help them improve their quality. So it's really important. We're definitely shifting in the marketplace from quantity of enrollments to quality of enrollments. And so, if you see something in bold, that's what the carriers are requiring of us. LeadStar and powered by Enroll Here, they're already doing a lot of that stuff for you on the front end by performance managing the lead vendors and also making sure that their marketing is already in compliance. So they're taking that for you, and you don't have to worry about that side. You just have to make sure you do a compliant sales presentation. And this is a compliant sales presentation. So we'll highlight things that are required, and also recording your calls. The platform does that for you, and that's required.
A big win for the system to be able to do that. It's a very large value add.
You're going, no matter what, I promise you, if you sell over the phone this annual enrollment, you will have some calls requested from a carrier. You will get an email, or they'll contact you probably in January or February, and you may have done nothing wrong, but just be prepared that you're going to have to supply some calls this year. I can tell you that's going to happen. And what's nice about being on this platform is it's really easy for you to get that call to the carrier. So stepping in. So step one on a sales presentation over the phone is going to be your opening and intro.
Right. So just make sure you're aware of the demographic, the clientele that you're talking to. If you're used to selling life insurance, med supp, any of those things, you just want to set the tone for the leads that you're taking. You want to, when you're inside the system, look at the lead packets that are inside of there, so you're prepared and versed for the conversation that you're about to have. You might not know the exact type of document they were looking at, but you'll have a pretty good idea of what exactly that lead's calling in for.
They're looking for benefits. They're looking for, they want to get the most out of their Medicare. All these lead vendors and publishers, they're targeting people that want to get more out of their Medicare. So if you approach it in that way of like, hey, I want to help you get the most out, maximize your benefit that you've paid into for your whole life, which is Medicare, and let's find the right plan for you. So whenever you do your opening introduction, okay, a few things that are required in the intro is you got to state your full name. You have to state that you're a licensed agent, what agency you're with, right? Because it's an inbound call, okay, and that the call is going to be recorded. So I
definitely encourage you to print this out, type it up online, whatever you're going to do when you get started, having it in front of you so that as you're reading it, you could read it verbatim if you have to.
If you're managing agents or you are an agent and you're going to sell this over you're going to sell over the phone, some of you guys are thinking, okay, Bob and Brian, why are you guys so focused on the intro? We've seen this done wrong so often, and then we hear that the leads aren't any good. Okay. And this is with any platform. Your intro and what you're using is very important. Okay. I've seen people the wrong way is, oh, thanks for holding. This is Bobby. Were you looking for help today? Were you looking for Medicare? How can I help you? Okay. I'm not disrespecting any of you, but I promise you, I hear calls every AEP and people do that. That will not work. You'll not be successful. You got to, you can already be rest assured they're opting in for help and maximizing their Medicare and benefits. Okay. So what we have seen work, and this has been tested and tried, and it's true, is it's very assumptive. So I'm going to read this one because I think some voice tone and stuff that matters. So hello, and thank you for holding. My name is Robert Bache. I'm a licensed insurance agent here at Senior Healthcare Direct. Please know our call will be recorded. Is it okay if I continue? Right. I don't pause. I don't break in between.
And we're even giving you, because if you get hit, you're not very often you get hit with a no here, but we're even giving you some guidelines. If you do get hit with a no, a quick rebuttal to continue on with that.
And then, most of the time they're going to say, okay. So now the compliance also disclosure, this has to be read as a TPMO disclosure. Okay. So you got to read that verbatim. I'm not going to sit there and we're not going to read through all this today.
So the big component here where it says insert the number of plans, right below that, if you are using Sunfire, and I encourage you to, when you type in the client zip code in the system, it will tell you the number of plans you represent in that zip code for you to read it readily available.
And so then if yes, perfect. I'm happy to help. To see if I can help you with your Medicare request, what is your zip code? Okay. So again, you're controlling the call. All right. You're saying I'm happy to help, but also what is your zip code? And I'm going to help you with your Medicare request.
Yeah, I know when the TPMO disclosure first became a big component, I was a little reluctant to lead it because you feel like this might deter you from getting a sale or working through the process. You're not going to lose a sale over having this part of the conversation, but you will definitely have a problem if you don't read this and you get a call recording request and that's not in there. So be sure that you follow that part of the process.
And just assume it. If you think it's going to be an obstacle, then it's going to be an obstacle. If you've done this 100 times a day and you act like you do 100 times a day, it's
you could add a piece in here that says, I've got a few disclosures that I'm required to read, so bear with me real quick. Stop me if you have any questions. You can put your flavor on that, but you've got to read this component verbatim.
And if for some reason they say no, they don't want to continue, we have a rebuttal in there, which is, well, I'm a licensed agent, and since you have me on the phone already, what questions about your Medicare coverage can I answer for you? Then they usually have a question. Oh, I was just looking for dental, or I was just looking because my doctor is not taking my plan. Or a lot of people this year, again, for the second year in a row, is I've been notified my plan's not going to be available next year. So again, perfect. That's why we're talking.
Right. Or you got your ANOC notice, and to Bobby's point, you're realizing that your plan is not available. And there's going to be a lot of disruption this year. So you just be prepared for a variety of reasons.
Good. And now, and you want to be able to collect the basic information. So verify the information with them. I have your name. I have your zip code. And then do you mind repeating that back to me? What county is the zip code located in? All right. A couple reasons that you want them to repeat that stuff back to you is you want them to participate in the call. So like when you're selling face to face, you have a lot of
mannerisms you can pick up on
and facial expressions and stuff like how engaged is the customer. Well, one way you can keep a customer prospect engaged on a phone call is ask them questions and ask them to repeat stuff back to you. Keeps them engaged. It makes them feel like they're talking with you, not at you.
And you try to avoid some of the dead space on the phone that might be there and some of the awkwardness. And again, after your first few calls, you'll get used to this.
Great. And then you have to read the TCPA disclaimer.
Yep. And you just say, I've got a few more disclaimers I've got to read here before we get into more detail.
All right. So again, Megan has this on file at LeadStar. If you need questions, again, we don't want to sit here and read all this with you guys.
But you do need to cover every component that's inside of here from a compliance perspective. So don't skip over it. Just read through it.
And here's where your presentation starts, which is, what is your current coverage? Okay. So that's my favorite question. It gets them right into the, now you got to find out, do they have group? Do they have another Medicare Advantage? AEP is pretty easy with this. This is definitely it's always important, but definitely when you're SAP hunting in lock-in period. But here, a lot of the customers you're going to talk to, especially on LeadStar, it's going to be clients that have a Medicare Advantage plan now, and they're shopping. They know it's annual enrollment and it's time for them to shop. Okay. So once you get their current coverage, all right, if they don't know what their coverage is, don't Don't lose the call. Don't get hung up on it. Ask them, ask them the right questions. No worries. I can still help you with that. And then still kind of get into plans. If they're not sure what coverage they have, ask some more fact-finding questions. What card do you give to the doctor? Oh, I'm not sure. Well, can you just grab that card for me and read it to me? And again, on the phone, if you can ask them to do something like go grab their card and they do it, that's a buying sign. Okay. Yep. If they don't do it, you can overcome that later. Okay. And just keep going. But it's good signs. If they're not sure what coverage they have, just say, listen, I could keep going and really just confuse you with a bunch of stuff that you may not even need to know. But I think me being a professional licensed agent, it's in our best interest if you go grab your medic or your whatever card you give the doctor, and I'll verify what coverage you have so we can make sure you're in the right situation.
Yeah, and the intent there is important. And for some of you that'll sell geographically in particular areas or one state, as you may hear somebody read off a plan and you'll know that plan like the back of your hand. One, it gives you credibility if you know some of the details of it, but two, just be careful that you don't back yourself into a corner by saying too much. Just because you feel like you need to talk during dead space. It is sometimes hard to backtrack out of statements. Let's say you're aware of a plan that has, a give back of X and of another one in the zip code that has a different give back. Just be careful that you don't oversell and back yourself into a corner at any point in that part.
Yep. And I don't know, I know some of you join these calls consistently. Some of you might be new. There is a video training on the sales process that breaks down every single process. I think we've given it out to 450 agents or so just since the last LeadStar webinar. So if you are interested and you want that video training where you can rewatch David Manaya and Jordan Fair, two of our sales leaders at Senior Healthcare Direct, it's the same training we use for the 120 agents or so that they have going in annual enrollment. Just email Megan and request it, and then you'll get an email from us with that training. Now, here's our scope of appointment that you have to read, right? And you want to read, okay? I work for, list your agency name, and in your area, we have a wide variety of plans. This is an approved scope, okay? The carriers approved this. They also approved the privacy disclosure as well, okay? Again, these are disclosures, right? But you're also reading this while you put their zip code in.
And you'll get pretty savvy with doing this. While maybe they're getting their card, you're reading some of these things too, and you're writing things down, and it will become second nature, even though in your initial few endeavors here will feel very clunky and uncomfortable.
Now we're going to the needs analysis. So I also call this the customer tells you how to sell them analysis. All right. Do not skip over your needs analysis for a few reasons. One, if you want to put them in the right plan, have high quality business, you want to make sure you find out what's important to them and help them find the right plan. But you also are going to be able to do what in sales we call a tie back. So, once you ask them like these questions, like what's most important to you, you're going to find out. Is it dental? Is it hearing? Is it vision? Is it low specialist copay? Right? Some people might go to a specialist every month, right? They might have two different specialists every month they have to go to. Well, the specialist copay is probably really important to them. Maybe even more than a free cleaning or something. So they'll tell you what's important to them. And then when you go to close them later on in the process, you can tie back to
just make sure you're taking notes, because they may give you a tidbit of information right off the rip when you ask them in the beginning of your intro what they may be looking for. You'll make sure you're writing down these notes in the beginning as you get used to documenting through this process.
And we give you some disclosures on VA and TRICARE and stuff, like to make sure you check certain boxes off because you don't want to hurt someone's situation. So again, I encourage you to read through this. Megan emailed this to me today, so I know she has it. And again, you can also go to the sales training as well.
You need to get doctors and meds every time without exception. If they don't know who their meds are or where their meds are, offer to call the pharmacy with them. Do whatever you can in that component, but be very careful in this space, especially going into the disruption of 26. Verify doctors, verify meds, follow your sales process that you do to back up that data.
If you want to lose your carrier appointment and get CTMs, don't look up pharmacy drug and prescriptions, and don't look up doctors. Those are huge mistakes. So I was obviously being sarcastic. Look up doctors, look up meds, make sure it's a pharmacy they want to go to, and that they have the lower copays at that pharmacy.
It's where we see majority of the complaints coming from is they go see a doctor and they're not in network or their medication's not covered. A lot of complaints arise from errors in that.
On that note, just because I'm thinking about it, also big complaints come with the Part B rebate.
Yes.
So just as a sidebar, way for you to avoid complaints is make sure you set the expectation that that takes a couple months for that rebate to show up.
Yep.
I was just in Louisville with Humana and with Doug Teff and Jay, and they were sharing with me that they'd like our agents to do a better job of setting the expectation that that Part B rebate's going to take a few months to actually reflect in their Social Security.
And so as you're going through the process, you'll see, somebody might get a $100 Part B give back. So what Bobby's referencing in detail there is you need to explain to them where they're like, oh, I get you a $100 Part B give back as a part of this plan. The reality is, to Bobby's point, it may take 3 months for that to settle, for it to reconcile, for them to see it. Whereas there are some instances where you'll tell them as a Part B give back, you didn't set the expectation, and the next month they see in the Social Security, well, I didn't get my $100. And they call into the carrier, call into CMS, and formulate a complaint. So that's part of where that expectation setting is really crucial in that.
And being good at your job. Yep. It's also going to avoid you getting a phone call February saying, why did you lie to me?
Yep.
Right. So make sure you set those proper expectations. Again, these are special need plans, some certain instructions if they have been diagnosed, list of conditions.
So as we talk about special needs for 26, this is an important component because for some folks who are used to selling D-SNPs only and haven't sold very many chronic plans, just understanding the process, understanding what that's going to look like for 2026. Make sure you do your homework with the carriers in your area. You're looking at the plans. You understand how that works. There's a lot of Medicare, Medicaid related changes that are going to be happening for individuals across the country. And if you are putting somebody in a chronic plan, that you understand the process to get the chronic plan approved. You can't just put them in it and say, good luck. There's documentation. Every carrier does it a little bit differently. Some are very similar. Just make sure you either reach out to your upline, reach out to your carrier reps to understand that process in detail, but you cannot just put somebody in a chronic plan and say, good luck. You have to follow up with diligence and make sure that the verifications of those chronic conditions get approved.
Again, you want to, because you guys own this business. A lot of the issues are with the larger call centers that you have LOA agents, which are doing their best, and they're trying to do a great job. But most of those agents don't get paid renewals or really ever talk to that customer again. Like you did when you first started. You're building your own book of business here. So setting those proper expectations is not just a way to avoid complaints, but it's a way to get referrals. And a way to do a good job.
You want to build that rapport, build that relationship, go the extra mile for them to help ensure things go active.
So we read our disclosures. We got what's important to them. We put in their doctors, we put in their meds into Sunfire or Connecture. And now we have a plan that we're looking at for them, right? And we can't use absolutes. So you can't use best, you can't use free. I always joke it's like Star Wars, absolutes are for the Sith. So, now again, what if you accidentally say best on a call or you say better on a call? Like, you don't lose your license for that, okay? Even if that call gets pulled, you might get a coaching unless it's something that you're consistently doing on purpose. But so, what we say when we find the plan is, say, based on the information you've given me, so I'm empowering them, right? We found a plan in your area that may cover your doctors, medications, and additional benefits. And then we name that plan name, plan number, and what the monthly premium is. And go ahead.
One of the important things here to keep in mind, I learned this lesson the hard way. When you're on the phone, the only person that can see the screen is you. So try to avoid going the oohs and ahs before this part where you've picked a plan and you're rolling through this part. Just avoid the oohs and ahs of, oh, this plan has this, but sorry, it doesn't have that one. Because the emotional roller coaster that you might be putting the client through is important to keep in mind as you navigate through there. And remember, you're the only one that can see the screen and those plans in that zip code that you're looking at. So try your best to avoid the oohs and ahs, but don't overwhelm the client with 5 different plans. Do your diligence in the needs analysis as you're evaluating what plan makes the most sense based on dental, vision, hearing, other benefits. Maybe it's the doctor copay visits. So make sure you're doing your homework and you're documenting through those things as you're going.
That's a really good call out, actually. So I remember when I first started coaching some agents with Medicare Advantage plans, I would walk up and I would see, an agent's on the phone for 45 minutes and they're still looking at the quoting tool. And they're talking to the customer about 3 plans or 2 plans. you have to keep it simple. Like, let's talk about the person you're speaking to on the phone. Okay, you've got to cover the basics to help them make the right decision. But it's like me. Okay, if you guys don't know, Brian's a big car guy. Okay, loves cars. He has a lift in his garage. I won't tell you the cars he has because I don't want him to get a big head. But he's good at fixing cars. He's good at, he likes cars. This doesn't shock anybody. I'm not really a manly man. I do not know anything about cars. So when something's wrong with my car, okay, I take it into the shop and I want that person to tell me what's wrong, how they're going to fix it, but just enough to where I feel like they're not going to screw me and that they're going to do a good job, right? I don't need to know. I don't even know. I don't even know what I don't need like a brake pads or something. Like, I don't need to know that the brake pads aren't working. My brakes aren't right. Like, they're making noise. Just fix them and please don't rip me off, right? So, but now, that Brian, when he goes into get his car fixed, he's probably, because he also thinks he knows everything, he's going to tell them how to fix the car probably, right? He's going to know all the parts, know everything, okay? Now, me, I'm probably even on the phone, like I have an Escalade, when they call me, I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, yeah, that's good. Just go fix it, right? Because I'm going to do it all over the phone. Brian's probably going to go meet the person touching his car. He's going to meet the person that's going to fix his brakes, all those things, because he has nice cars and he knows about cars and wants to make sure it gets done right. I just want my car not to make noise when I break it.
So what Bobby's saying is they changed his blinker fluid and he approved the payment.
I know there's no blinker fluid because you've done that to me before. But my point is, if you're used to selling face-to-face, if you're used to someone who's driving to a senior center every year and wants to sit down with somebody for an hour, that's Brian. Okay? Like that, that's a face-to-face sale. That person wants to know and everything about the plan and all that stuff. The people you're talking to on LeadStar are me when I'm trying to get my car fixed. Okay? I know I've got a problem that I got to get solved. Okay? I'm just looking for someone that I feel I can trust, that can give me enough. I'm going to tell you what's important to me. Make my brakes stop squeaking, right? So I'm going to give you my doctors. I'm going to give you my meds, and I'm going to tell you I go to a specialist twice a month, and I don't want to pay $50 on a copay every time, right? So what he's saying is, like, do not present 2 or 3 plans to these type of leads, because if you overwhelm them, they will not buy from you on the phone.
A confused buyer will not buy.
Correct. So, you're getting their doctors, you're getting their meds, you got what's important to them. Find a plan and ride or die with that plan.
So a big component here as what Bobby's talking about and some of the importance of getting your doctors and meds. And if you've sold over the phone before or even in person, you're starting through the process and they're getting their list of doctors. And there's times that right away that Dr. Smith is not in network. Well, you need to not back yourself into a corner that Dr. Smith might not be in network with that. Well, Dr. Smith might be their cardiologist, where you say, well, your cardiologist is in a network. Well, sometimes you can get folks to switch their plans, switch their doctors, and that's an art form to be able to figure out.
Well, it's not how. It's not what you say. It's how you say. So, for example, if Mr. Smith's the cardiologist and he's not in network, okay, don't just say, oh, Mr. Smith's not in that plan. Find a doctor that's pretty close, because it tells you on Sunfire how far they are, right, roughly, and just say, hey, Mr. Smith's not there, but I have a highly rated other cardiologist named Dr. whatever, all right, that does accept this plan with the lower copay, right, and has high ratings. And if you're, and so I think you're willing, if you're willing to change that doctor that's got high ratings and low copay, I think that's what you should.
And you're going to have times where Dr. Smith might be the cardiologist that saved their life, and you're not going to be able to change that. You've just got to make a judgment call as you're navigating that. But there'll be times where somebody will have 10 doctors, no joke, 10 doctors, and one of them won't be in network. It might be that person's podiatrist who they haven't seen in 2 years. So you've got to put some work in navigating that. But to Bobby's point, you got to be careful on what you say and how you say it during that process. And that's part that goes back to the oohs and the ahs. Just be careful as you're navigating through here. Same thing with some of the medications. You're going to know some of the big ticket medications that they might read along the way. And if you're selling, again, in a concentrated geographical area, you're going to have a pretty good feeling for what some of those things are.
It's a really good call out on the doctors. If they've got 10 doctors, ask how often they go. It could be a podiatrist that just cuts, even if they go every 6 weeks to cut their toenails. There's another podiatrist that will
and so spend the time, and this is a lesson learned for my part, is as I was gaining the tidbits of information along the way. I needed to spend more time fact gathering because it gave me the tiebacks that I needed along the way. To Bobby's point, it's a great call. If I see Dr. Smith once a year, I haven't seen him in 2 years, you're writing those things down. So as you do get to the point of a plan presentation, you can then go back to whoever that client is and just explain to them, well, look, Dr. Smith's not a network. You haven't seen him in 2 years. Here's another highly rated cardiologist that's in the area. I can help you get an appointment set, whatever that pitch is going to be there. But you have that tie back information rather than telling them Dr. Smith's not a network, but how many times do you see him anyways? Like that is an off-putting statement versus you could have done some diligence ahead of time to avoid that scenario.
Yep. Now, talk about oohs and ahs. This is where you get excited though. Okay. So you've got the information about the doctors, how often they see them. You got the meds. You've looked at the plans. You know what plan the customer, the prospect currently has. All right. So now you're finding a plan that has lower copays, more benefits for them, and it's the right fit for them. Now, compliance requirements, you got to read certain parts of the summary benefits that are listed here, which you should be reading, but how you read them is really important, right? So, you should be excited and you should be able to, what I would do here is I have both plans up. And what they currently have compared to what I have found for them. And I'll tell them, great news. I found a plan that's going to have $1,000 less out of pocket if, God forbid, you meet your out-of-pocket costs. And that's just the start of it. Now, here's how we're going to get there. Your doctor copay for your primary is going from, $5 to $0. Your specialist copay, you told me you go to 4 specialists 7 times a year. We're going to save you $15 per visit. We're going to save you 7 times 50.
So what Bobby's saying is you're doing some of the diligence where you're adding these small savings up into a larger number to make it more impactful as you're going, but you're also doing it with excitement, passion, not just reading verbatim off of the screen. Like you've got to do a little bit of homework to pull those things in. And you will become more savvy over the first few sales. I went back and listened to my original calls and they are awful. I put the client on hold 15 times asking questions because I didn't know what I was doing. And then you start learning into a rhythm here. But to Bobby's point, you're on the phone. You're not looking at you can't see their reactions. You can't see the mannerisms. You can't see what's going on. So you've got to bring the excitement and the passion here.
Yep. And paint the picture. Paint the picture. Saving you $10 on a specialist copay. You go 8 times a year. That's $80 in savings right there on your specialist copays. That's a trip to the movies or dinner, right? Where, paint the picture for them. So
you've got to go over these though. You have to read these. You have to go over them.
But some people are going to check a box. Your plan premium is this. Your Part B reduction is this. Your inpatient hospitalization is this. Okay. The truth is you're still going to get some sales if you do that because guys, we sell free insurance or Medicare Advantage is a great product. Okay. So you're still going to do okay. But if you really want to take it to the next level and go from a 20% conversion to a 35% conversion, paint the picture as you go and get excited. Oh, wow, you told me dental was important to you. This plan has $600 more dental benefit for you next year. Wow, I'm really glad that we're talking today. Aren't you glad we're talking today, Mrs. Smith? Right? And have that interaction with them. All right, so these are what you have to read, okay? And then there's some compliance requirements if you're going to go over supplemental benefits, okay?
Remember, whenever I had to read these, I would just always tie this, Mrs. Smith, look, I've got to read some disclaimers here. They require me to read them. Bear with me. Just let me know if you have any questions in any components here.
And there's also a high probability on LeadStar. Like you're probably talking to people that have already bought over the phone before.
Yep.
So it's probably not going to be super foreign to a lot of them. Now, if you can if you follow this process, you will be better than most of them. So they'll be pleasantly surprised. All right, you got to cover your prescription drug costs. Okay, this is a huge way again to avoid complaints and to avoid rapid disenrollments. I would also encourage you, and this is from the carriers because I've been with them at the kickoffs recently. Most of them, there is a financial reward to setting them up on the mail order.
Yep.
Okay. Not only is there a financial reward, but they all say it goes all the way back to lower CTMs, lower complaints, lower issues, lower customer service requirements. So, if you can set up the mail order pharmacy, I think that's worth it.
And I encourage you to study. Again, goes back to some of the requirements for enrolling into a chronic special needs plan. Same concept here. Some carriers have very specific processes. Just become an expert on those processes. So you're not trying to sell somebody on something at the same time you're learning about it. You want to be an expert, have known it, just walk through it really easily and smoothly and know some of those ins and outs. Call your carrier partners, call your upline, call whoever you think is going to help add value there knowledge-wise to just help you become an expert on that.
And something I would do going in this annual enrollment is we're seeing a trend on carriers not paying commissions for PPO plans.
Yep.
All right. The macro reason for that is technically Medicare Advantage is managed care. It's tough to do managed care when it's a PPO, but I won't go too far into a sidebar on that. But what I would recommend is understand that what an HMO is now is not what an HMO was 10 years ago.
Right. Networks are changing, being negotiated constantly.
And they're more expanding.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, there's some plans have passport programs where you can travel for a certain amount of time. So, really ask your upline, really understand what that HMO network is, because I think that if it was me, I would be targeting on LeadStar areas. Again, beauty of LeadStar is I can buy leads anywhere.
Yep.
I would target areas where some of the carriers are losing 700,000 PPO members, right? I would target those areas and I would be equipped to help those people understand that, the PPO may not be the right option anymore, but HMOs aren't what they used to be. Here's what they are now.
Yep.
And I would be equipped to say that.
So some of what Bobby's talking about is, as you look at the expansions and contractions that are happening across the country, you might only be licensed here in Florida where we're at. I encourage you to look at some of the other states. If you need to add a state appointment, like it might cost you one sales worth of production to be able to work in that state. But if you have a state with a lot of disruption, it's a lot of opportunity, because all of those individuals have to find a new plan to go on to, and make sure you're very versed on the difference between HMO, PPOs. Use whatever AI systems are available to help you refine that pitch, practice against it, test it, try and rebuttal yourself. AI will help you navigate through that. But those are opportunities where you're looking at strategic opportunities. You're looking at where to spend your money and the best places to spend your money. You need to be strategic and savvy as you're looking at that.
Yeah, some of you might be agents that are in states that there's not a lot of disruption. Okay. But I would find out from your upline what states have lots of disruption, and I would target those areas. Now, if you are picking HMO, make sure they understand the HMO. Go over the doctors that are in network. Again, if a doctor is not in network, okay, just tell them. Not all your I don't shy away from it. Act like it's just normal.
And Bobby has a great point there. If you are moving somebody off of a PPO to an HMO, be very clear. Again, this is part of where you becoming an expert in this will save you a relationship with the client, as well as complaints from the carrier. You're going to want to explain to them the difference of the network, any restrictions, changes, just so that you have it on the recording and you also can reference it to the client. You're just educating the client. There is a change potentially for them. And a lot of folks are used to HMO, to Bobby's point. It's been very prevalent in the space for a long time.
And so here's, if you go, some of these people that are shopping over the phone, it's because it's hard for them to get out of the house. So some of them do have some health issues. All right. And so again, don't shy away from, oh, that doctor's not in network, and then go to another plan, right? So if you find the plan and tell them, hey, we're able to verify that these doctors are in network. However, not all your doctors are in network for this plan. But I was able to find this doctor and specialist being replaced who are in network with this plan. This will allow you to maximize your benefit, which is great. Okay. And then you ask them, are there any preferred facilities that need to be in network? Okay. Explain the physician referral program. Again, I think that's really important. Understand, what needs a referral and what doesn't. That's part of you being an expert. Your upline should help you with that. Okay. And I know we're getting low on time here, and I know people have questions that they want us to answer. So we're perfect. I think we're good here, but closing the sale and pre-enrollment. Okay. Please do not ask them, do you want to sign up today? Okay. Do not ask them, do you have any more, do you need any information that I can send you to think about it? Okay. Assume the close. I always tell people this is, shopping for their Medicare plans like going to the dentist or going to the gym. All right. It's like going to the gym. Nobody wants to go, but they're happy when they're done, when they're leaving. Okay. It's the same thing here.
I use that rebuttal a lot in that commentary. So to Bobby's point, definitely take that home and assume the close and make those jokes. Again, you cannot see the person's facial reactions on the phone. So you've got to bring that energy and bring some of the lightness to the conversation about, nobody likes going to the gym, but they feel great after. Like, I've used that many a times.
Yeah. Cause again, I'm not trying to put pressure on these people, but the reality is, like, when someone says to me, thanks. Send me some information and I want to look at it. Okay. Do you really? Because I do this every single day and I don't love looking at every single plan. Like, I mean, do you really want to sit there and look at all this information? Like, you know, and I just kind of rebuttal. I'm like, look, you told me what's important to you. We looked at your doctors, look at your meds. I represent the plans in your area. Based on the information you gave to me, this is the right option for you. Let's beat the rush of AEP. You don't have to take any more phone calls. You don't have to watch the ads. Let's go ahead and get this submitted so that you get your policy and you get your ID cards well before January 1st. And create that urgency for them, especially. And how you do that on closing them can change. So for me, come October 15th, I'm going to create urgency by saying, building the value and getting it done. Hey, you don't have to worry about this anymore. You're going to get your policy and your ID cards. You don't have to worry about it anymore. As it gets close to Halloween and stuff, look, the holidays are coming. I use this one the whole month of October, November. Look, the holidays are coming. You've got things you want to take that are way more fun to think about than Medicare Advantage or your Medicare plan. So let's go and just take a few minutes, grab your Medicare card, and let's get this taken care of, which I think if I scroll up a little bit, that's where. So this is the closing line. It's not, do you want to sign up today? It's, hey, it will take me just a few minutes to start the enrollment process, and I may have some additional questions for you. Okay. So tell them, go grab their Medicare card. And and
this is where you're also pulling back some of the fact finding you've done, some of the excitement that you brought before. Mrs. Smith, I'm going to save you $90 a year in your podiatrist visit or your cardiologist visit, and you're bringing those facts to them. So then at the end, you can pull back. Mrs. Smith, you're going to save, $1,000 in copays or other expenses, but you're also gaining all of these additional benefits. This is an art form that you've got to develop over time, but it comes with practice and repetition as you navigate through it.
Yep. Intro, fact find, plan, find, close. Just confirming before we sign, you got to get your intent to enroll. So just confirming before we sign the application, you understand how the plan works and you are ready to enroll.
And this is a spot where you need to get, even if it's dead silence, you can't move forward. You need to get them to say, yes, sure. It needs to be something definitive to move forward.
And then, you guys go into your, once this portion is completed, you guys go into your Sunfire or your carrier platform, whatever enrollment tool you're using.
And don't feel awkward. You're going to end up rereading some of the same disclosures, but just tell the client, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, whoever it may be, that, just bear with me. I've got to read through this. Just stop me if you have any questions. Just keep that expectation as you're going. Keep that at the forefront for them so that they're not just sitting there in dead air.
Okay. So I know we covered a lot. I encourage you to reach out to Megan. This is available. Okay. This works. Okay. Some of you, there's going to be different reactions. Some of you like, okay, that seems silly. That seems, why'd you do it that way? I promise you, the group senior, we have groups doing 30,000 enrollments a year following this exact process.
And the reality is we've seen enough iterations of folks selling over the phone that when we are sent calls to review, score, give feedback, almost every time we're looking at it saying you didn't follow the sales process or you deviated from the sales process, and they say, yeah, well, there isn't a but. Once you've sold enough policies and you're proficient at this, then maybe you start making some edits. But in the beginning, you follow the sales process. It's proven, it's tried and true. I am a guilty party of trying to change it myself. So you just keep that in mind as you're navigating and making those decisions.
Good. So I see we got some questions. If you have a question, list it in the Q&A platform. Okay. Blake just wrote, how do you address the grocery allowance card people are asking about?
So as you're navigating that, some of this is if you know your geographical area that you're selling in, you're going to know some of these 2026 plans and do your homework and your diligence there on those plans. But sometimes you might get a lead that says, well, I'm calling in for the $2,500 grocery allowance. They might not even know what they're talking about. Those are scenarios where you don't come out and just say, well, Ms. Smith, there is no $2,500 grocery card. You got to navigate through that as a professional and just say, well, let me look into that. Let's dig into that. And you start fact gathering. You don't just come out and say, there's no, you don't do that.
So, and also if that happens, what I would like to do, let's say is it a $25 grocery sometimes, or what is that really?
It might be a couple $100 a month sometimes.
So call it $100 a month.
Yep.
Right. So, there's a couple ways you can navigate that. Yeah. To see if you're eligible for that, let me gather some information from you. Right. And then as you gather information, that might only be for a dual customer. So you can say, now what's your current coverage? What's your current plan? Okay. Are you eligible for any special assistance now? Find out if they have, if they're dual eligible. If they're not, and there's no plans that have the grocery card benefit, just tell them, hey, listen, you don't qualify for that plan, but I'm confident based on your current plan that I can find you a plan that will save you more than $200 on your other benefits. And then just tie back.
Yeah, and you navigate them. What Bobby's saying is when you ask them if they have Medicaid or those kinds of things, again, you got to be professional on the calls, be diligent as you're going through that. As soon as they say $2,500, don't turn around and say, you have Medicaid. Again, you may still get some sales doing that, but just follow the process, follow through the documentation to go through that. Because the reality is if they're not eligible for Medicaid, they're not going to get that $2,500 grocery card anywhere they go, but you'll be able to add value. Maybe there's a chronic plan that does have that. You'll navigate through that.
I always tell customers I want to help you get the most out of your Medicare that you're eligible
that you're
for.
entitled to.
Yep, that you're entitled to.
That's a big part.
And based on your income, you're not entitled to that grocery benefit, but you are entitled to these benefits.
Well, you want the client to feel that they're entitled to these benefits. They want the benefits, so then at the end of your sales process, they're asking you to enroll into that plan.
So Karina had 3 questions. She said, "How do we access the scripts?" You can reach out to Megan. She has them. She can drop her email address, I'm sure, in the chat, or I'm sure you have it from the invite. Okay. Also, I would like to stay local. Is that realistic? How many states do you recommend? So I don't know what your sales goal is. Okay. And I don't know where you're at. I don't know if local means like in your county. I believe the way that you can purchase leads is just by state.
By state.
So I think it might be tough to stay local, just to your county.
Now you could potentially do face-to-face appointment that you could geographically target in those areas. But if you're taking them over the phone, it is hard to target geographically in specific zip codes. It's more so state specific. How many states do you recommend being in? It's different for everybody. If you're in Alaska, that might be tough. Or if you're in a state that might have, 2 or 3 carriers only, you've got to make a judgment call based on the states that you're in, but we're going to know pretty quickly into AEP some of the heat maps and some of the things that are out there.
Agreed. So, I would say at least a few states. That's part of the advantage. If you're going to be a master at selling over the phone, especially if you live like in Kentucky, I would add Indiana, right? Like maybe, but I would also target those states like where some of the SARs are. There's no reason not to add if a state's losing 200, if a carrier in a certain state is losing 200,000 members, I would target that state.
Yep.
All right. Terry has a question. So with the OTC cards, the utility allowances are now based on qualifying conditions. So some people may lose that option. How would you navigate this?
Yeah. So these are scenarios where you've got to become an expert on the criteria for them to be eligible. Listen, in the beginning of AEP, this is going to be sticker shock to some folks, but they all got their ANOC notices, so they're going to have some documentation in there to reference back to, so make sure you direct them back to some of those documents. But you've really got to become an expert, and once you become savvy with understanding the ins and outs of this, you'll be able to navigate them pretty quickly.
And again, I still go back to the line. I try to help everybody get their max benefit to what they're entitled to based on your eligibility. And if you're not eligible, I just say, I can't make something up for you, but I can at least help. Let's find those savings somewhere else.
So there's a comment here on zip code information being ported over. So when you log in and a client comes through, just be cautious.
Verify that
the information is not always correct. Let's say somebody's parents or child pays for their phone bill and it's in a different zip code. So just be cautious. Zip codes won't always match. Area codes for phones won't always match. Just always verify that information.
So, Charles, the zip code could be off. Just always verify it, before you start looking into plans. Okay. Lander's asking for Megan's contact info. Megan, it looks like she already wrote it on there. Leadstar@leadstarhub.com. So leadstar@leadstarhub.com if you want any of the scripts or trainings. Okay. And then I think we're pretty much at time here, but let me just see. I think there's a couple more questions. Let's see.
Yeah, I encourage everybody who doesn't have access to the online training, watch the online training videos, study the rebuttal section, study the SEPs, practice with yourself, practice with AI. It will help you overcome any of the jitters, the uncertainty, and help you become an expert in the space. You can even drop plan documents in there for whatever state you might be in. There's a lot that you can do and be creative with in there.
Okay.
Perfect.
I think that's all we have time for today. I know if you guys think it's helpful, we're happy to jump on throughout AEP to check in on everybody.
I think we want to talk about selling, cross-selling some things, like adding some hospital indemnity there in time. So we want to talk about some additional things you can add to your repertoire.
But thank you, Megan.
Of
we
course.
Appreciate
thank you guys
the
for
opportunity.
joining. That was really great. Cece, if you want to pull up that final slide that we have, we do already have some bi-weekly training set up during AEP that you guys can register for now. October 23rd, November 5th, November 20th, and December 4th. Bob and Brian will be on with you guys to answer specific questions that come up during AEP, any updates or anything anyone is struggling on. The link to sign up for that will be in our follow-up communications. And then, of course, reach out to us at leadstar@leadstarhub.com to talk with our team, or sign up at leadstarhub.com directly to get access to our leads. Thank you guys again, and we're looking forward to working with you guys throughout AEP.